Naruto Uzumaki. The name alone sparks images of laughter, determination, and an undying will to never give up. But behind his glowing smile and loud voice hides a darkness that very few truly understand. While fans remember him as the boy who dreamed of becoming Hokage, his path was paved with loneliness, pain, and suffering that no child should have ever endured. Naruto's life wasn't about being a hero from the very beginning. It was about surviving rejection, cruelty, and unbearable silence from the people around him. From the day he was born, fate marked him with a burden that wasn't his to carry, and yet he bore it anyway. This curse made him one of the loneliest children in the shinobi world. His journey is inspirational, yes, but inspiration often comes from scars carved deep into the heart. The scars of being unwanted, unloved, and unseen shaped Naruto into someone who had to fight for every ounce of acknowledgement he ever received. What the world admired later, it had once spit on. To understand Naruto's true story, we have to strip away the victories and look at the wounds. We have to see him not as the future Hokage, but as the child who wandered the streets without a hand to hold. His dark side isn't about villainy, it's about how life crushed him again and again until he became strong enough to rise. So let's dive into the 20 reasons why Naruto's story is darker and more heartbreaking than most people realize. By the end, you'll see that his smile was never just happiness, it was defiance against the suffering that defined him. 1. Born as a curse to the village. Naruto's very existence began with tragedy. He was born on the night the Nine-Tails attacked Konoha, and in a desperate act to save the village, his parents sealed the beast inside him. Instead of being celebrated as the hero's child, he was branded as the monster that destroyed countless lives. The village didn't see a baby, they saw a demon. This label meant that before Naruto could even speak, he was hated. Babies are supposed to be embraced, protected, and loved by their community, but Naruto was denied all of that. His cries as an infant were met not with comfort but with glares and whispers of resentment. He wasn't given a fair chance at being human in the eyes of those around him. The psychological impact of being treated as a curse at birth cannot be overstated. Naruto's first experience of life was rejection. It wasn't something he earned, it was thrust upon him. And that rejection would follow him through his childhood like a dark shadow, setting the stage for years of pain. 2. Growing up an orphan. Every child deserves the love of their parents, but Naruto never even got to meet his properly. His father, the fourth Hokage, and his mother, Kushina Uzumaki, sacrificed themselves to protect the village. Their sacrifice saved Konoha, but it left Naruto completely alone in the world. Naruto never knew the feeling of being tucked into bed by a mother's hands or hearing a father's words of encouragement. He had no photographs, no bedtime stories, no family dinners, just a hollow silence where love should have been. The emptiness of losing them wasn't something he could even understand as a child, yet he felt its weight every single day. The cruelest part? The village knew who his parents were. Yet instead of honoring their sacrifice by taking care of their son, they abandoned him. Naruto wasn't just orphaned, he was erased from the very legacy his parents left behind. 3. Treated as a monster by the village. Naruto's childhood wasn't just lonely, it was hostile. The villagers whispered, pointed, and looked at him with nothing but fear and hatred. Parents pulled their children away when he walked by, as if he were contagious. He wasn't seen as a boy, he was seen as the Nine-Tails itself. Imagine being 5 years old and wondering why no one will sit next to you, why shopkeepers refuse to sell you food, and why everyone's eyes burn with anger when they meet yours. That's the reality Naruto lived in every day. For him, kindness was rare, almost alien. This constant rejection built layers of pain inside him. Every sneer reminded him that he didn't belong. Every closed door screamed that he wasn't wanted. Being treated as less than human is one of the darkest things anyone can endure, especially when you're just a child craving love. 4. Hunger for acknowledgement. What Naruto craved most wasn't power, it was acknowledgement. He didn't want riches or fame, he just wanted someone to notice him, to validate his existence. His pranks, his loud personality, his constant energy, they were all cries for recognition. Children often misbehave when they want love, but Naruto's mischief wasn't just childish rebellion. It was survival. It was his way of saying, "I'm here, please see me." His actions weren't out of malice, but out of desperation. And yet, even those cries were met with anger and ridicule. Instead of giving him affection, the world punished him, reinforcing the pain that no matter what he did, he would never truly be accepted. 5. Struggling with his identity. Naruto didn't even know who he truly was. His parents' identities were kept secret from him, his Uzumaki heritage hidden, and his role as a Jinchuriki left unexplained for much of his childhood. He was a boy lost in the dark, not even allowed to know where he came from. When you don't know who you are, it's easy to feel like you don't belong anywhere. Naruto wasn't given the truth that could have helped him understand himself. Instead, he was left to question why he was hated, why he was different, why he was so alone. This confusion wasn't just frustrating, it was painful. He had to define himself without guidance, without roots, and without answers. His entire identity was built on uncertainty. 6. Craving family but never having one. Naruto dreamed of family more than anything else. He imagined what it would be like to sit at a table, to share meals, to laugh with parents or siblings. But those dreams always ended in heartbreak because reality offered him nothing. The emptiness of not having family haunted him. Every time he saw others being embraced by their loved ones, the wound deepened. It wasn't just envy, it was grief for something he never had and never could reclaim. His desire for bonds wasn't just sweet, it was tragic. It came from a place of aching loss, of yearning for love that was stolen from him before he even had the chance to feel it. 7. Being targeted for his power. Naruto wasn't just hated, he was hunted. The very power he never asked for made him a target for enemies who wanted to capture or kill him. From Akatsuki to Orochimaru's schemes, Naruto's life was constantly in danger simply because of what lived inside him. Living under the shadow of being hunted strips away peace. Naruto could never relax, never simply exist, because someone always wanted to use him as a weapon. The idea of being valued only for what's inside you, not who you are, is deeply dehumanizing. For Naruto, this wasn't just physical danger, it was psychological torment. He wasn't seen as Naruto Uzumaki, the boy. He was seen as the Nine-Tails container, the tool, the prize. 8. Facing betrayal by Sasuke. Naruto's bond with Sasuke was the closest thing to a brotherly connection he ever had. For someone who grew up craving family, Sasuke filled that void. But watching Sasuke abandon him, choose darkness, and reject their bond was one of Naruto's deepest wounds. Betrayal cuts sharpest when it comes from someone you love. Naruto's desperate attempts to save Sasuke weren't just about rivalry, they were about clinging to the only true bond he had built with someone who understood loneliness. This betrayal left him in turmoil. It wasn't just the loss of a friend, it was the loss of family, the shattering of his fragile hope that he could hold on to love once he finally found it. 9. The weight of expectations. As Naruto grew, he wasn't just hated, he was burdened with expectations. He carried the dream of becoming Hokage, the responsibility of controlling the Nine-Tails, and the hope of his friends who believed in him. For someone who once just wanted acknowledgement, these pressures became crushing. Carrying the expectations of an entire village isn't uplifting, it's suffocating. Every failure felt amplified, every mistake felt like proof that maybe he wasn't worthy. The pressure to be perfect didn't give him room to simply be a boy. Behind his determination, Naruto constantly questioned himself. Was he truly strong enough? Could he really live up to the expectations everyone placed on him? That doubt was a quiet torment he carried alone. 10. The constant burden of war. Naruto's life was shaped by war. From the battles of his childhood to the Fourth Great Ninja War, he was never allowed peace. While other children dreamed of games and laughter, Naruto's dreams were filled with survival and bloodshed. War forced him to grow up too fast. It robbed him of innocence and demanded that he become a savior when he was still just a boy learning who he was. His childhood wasn't filled with freedom, it was filled with the weight of responsibility. This constant battle left him with scars, both physical and emotional. Peace was always out of reach, and in its place stood endless fighting and sacrifice. 11. Watching his mentor die. Jiraiya wasn't just Naruto's mentor, he was his anchor, his safe place in a world that constantly reminded him of loneliness and rejection. For Naruto, Jiraiya was more than a teacher of jutsu, he was the embodiment of the family he had been denied since birth. He teased Naruto, laughed with him, guided him, and, most importantly, believed in him when no one else did. In Jiraiya's presence, Naruto felt warmth, belonging, and the unconditional love of someone who truly saw him. When pain killed Jiraiya, it shattered Naruto's heart in ways words can hardly describe. It wasn't just the death of a mentor, it was the cruel ripping away of the one figure who filled the role of a grandfather, a father, and a friend all at once. The man who gave him wisdom, told him silly jokes, and shared his burdens was suddenly gone, leaving Naruto standing in the wreckage of grief and silence. Jiraiya's absence wasn't just felt in the battlefield, it echoed in Naruto's soul every single day afterward. The pain went beyond loss, it was a cruel reminder of Naruto's fate. Every time he let someone into his heart, they seemed to be taken from him. From his parents, to mentors like Jiraiya, to friends in battles, Naruto carried this unbearable pattern of loss. Losing Jiraiya wasn't just grief, it was fear that maybe love wasn't meant to last in his life, that no matter how tightly he held onto it, destiny would snatch it away. This wound scarred him deeply, but it also fueled his determination. Instead of letting grief consume him, Naruto used it as fire to keep Jiraiya's legacy alive. But that didn't erase the nights where he would sit alone, aching, wondering why the people he cherished most were the ones fate always seemed to take from him. It was tragedy wrapped in destiny, and for Naruto, it was one of the cruelest reminders of his cursed, lonely path. 12. Carrying the nine tails inside him, the prison of his own body. From the moment of his birth, Naruto's body was no longer just his own. He was forced to become the vessel of Kurama, the nine-tailed fox, a beast of unimaginable destruction and hatred. Unlike other children who were free to live as themselves, Naruto's very soul was shackled to a monster. His existence was defined not by who he was, but by what was sealed inside him. This wasn't a choice. It was a curse placed upon him before he even had the chance to open his eyes. Imagine waking up every day knowing that within your own body lies a creature that everyone fears, despises, and hates. It's like being trapped in a cage you can't escape, but the cage is your own flesh and blood. Naruto didn't have the freedom to just be Naruto. He was constantly reminded that his body was both a prison and a weapon, something that people around him looked at with suspicion and fear. Even when he was innocent, people accused him of being dangerous. Even when he wanted nothing but love, they saw him as the embodiment of destruction. But perhaps the darkest part of carrying the nine tails was the mental and emotional toll. The fox wasn't just sitting silently inside him, it whispered hatred, it radiated anger, it pushed him toward despair. Every time Naruto was angry or felt hopeless, the beast's influence grew stronger, threatening to consume him completely. He lived with the terrifying reality that one slip, one moment of weakness, could turn him into the very monster everyone believed he was. This wasn't just about carrying power, it was about carrying a nightmare inside him that no one else could understand. Naruto's burden was isolating beyond imagination. Who could he talk to about it? Who could truly understand what it felt like to breathe and feel another presence within your soul? He wasn't like other children who worried about friends or school, his worries were about survival, control, and the fear of death. Naruto Uzumaki is remembered as the hero who brought peace to the shinobi world. But behind his legend lies a boy who endured darkness most of us could never survive. His laughter was born from tears, his strength from scars, and his dreams from the depths of unbearable loneliness. Every bond Naruto formed was a victory over the pain of his past. Every person who finally acknowledged him was a light in the shadows he had walked alone for so long. But the truth remains, the world didn't make him strong, it broke him, and he rebuilt himself from the ashes. When we look at Naruto, we don't just see a ninja. We see a child who was cursed at birth, abandoned by love, and scarred by rejection, yet chose to love the world anyway. His heart didn't harden, it expanded. His pain didn't turn into hatred, it turned into hope. Naruto's story isn't just about becoming Hokage. It's about proving that even in the darkest places, a flicker of light can survive. That a boy who was treated as a monster could become the very symbol of love and unity. And so, when you see Naruto smile, remember what it cost him. That smile isn't just joy, it's defiance. It's the smile of someone who looked at the darkest life imaginable and said, "I will not break." And maybe, just maybe, that's why his story makes us cry, because it reminds us that no matter how broken we feel, we too can rise.